And I'm thrilled to be able to invoke the recent memory of two great men, two great filmmakers, Hal Ashby and Martin Ritt, who were really, really wonderful to me. And finally, I've obviously got to say hi, Mom, and thanks for transferring your love of movies to me, and thanks, Dad, for making me think I could actually be part of this industry. And thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stats Janisch. And their co-host, the man of controversy, Mr. Brian the Duke David. And finally, your host, Aaron Turner. Let's get ready to Schmoedown.
It is episode number 27 of the Schmoedown Rundown. My name is Aaron. I am your host, as always. Joining me this week, he is the stat man. He is Frank Janisch. What is happening, my man?
What's going on, guys? Great to be here.
Always a man of few words. I like it. Gets right to the point. Also here, Mr. Brian Davids. What's happening, man?
Guys, I'm doing great, and I continue to be Aaron's Huckleberry.
Oh, he just got awkward in here. And of course, we on occasion are joined by very special guests. We get that privilege. It's awesome. We're very glad to have these people when they're willing to come on. And wait a second. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Well, normally I would do the intro, but apparently, okay. All right, cool. Got it. All right. Well, here's this.
Pardon me, but my name is Jay Washington, and I am the advocate for the next big thing in Schmoedown singles. Now, my client, Brianne Chandler, if you didn't know who I was talking about, is undefeated, and she is here on the rundown to put every single one of you on notice. So listen up and put your hands together. Show some respect for my client, Miss Movies, Brianne Chandler.
It's my time to speak, so I'll take it from here. And you're dismissed, Jay. Thank you very much. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Oh, we're adequately frightened at this moment of the urban gladiator himself, Mr. Jay Washington. Wow, what a presence.
Isn't
I guess
he?
the first, yeah, a little bit. I guess the first thing I want to go to is where or when did you hook up with the urban gladiator as an advocate? Where did that idea come from?
Man, Brian.
I don't
know why this is so hilarious to you. This is a very serious subject.
I'm good. I'm cool.
What? When I was a teacher, you know what I would do when this would happen? I would just wait. So that's what I'm going to do right now.
Uh-oh.
School is in session, guys.
It is.
Here we go.
Welcome to my classroom. So basically, I kind of just said, you know what? I feel like I'm a smaller woman in this competition. I feel like I need to have a big presence. How can I have a big presence on this show? And who else could help me but Mr. Jay Washington? Because I know that he has some professional wrestling experience, and I thought that would probably be the person I should ask for some help.
Yeah, not a bad idea. The guy definitely has skills on the mic, that is for sure. It's like the chuckle hut in here. All right, well, another
Brian,
question.
Seriously, did you take some drugs? I'm a little worried.
That free California weed got him rolling.
No.
This is all being cut.
Do you live right next to a dispensary?
No, every time I hear talks. I'm a pro. I interviewed Vince Gilligan. It's all good. Okay.
Keep going. Keep your laughter on.
You keep telling yourself that.
All right, so Brianne.
Yes, Frank.
Yes, Frank, take the lead, please.
Well, sure. What did you think of Jay Washington's performance or speech, and did you guys talk about that beforehand, or like what he's going to say, or would you just let him do his own thing?
I basically was like, I don't want to speak, so I'm gonna just let you do what you want to do, and we'll see how that goes. And I didn't know what he said until I actually watched it when it was released, so I had no clue what was happening.
You just like blacked out while he was talking, and then you're like, okay,
I was actually listening to music, because that's what you got to do when you're hyping up for a match, is actually listen to the music that's in your headphones. So that's what I was doing.
What were you listening to?
I was listening to my intro music. Just on
for the show that you use on the show. Oh wow, you're all real in there. Just
I mean, how else are you going to do a match? I've only actually done a physical fight twice in my life, and both times were for a grade in a class. I had to actually spar someone and actually hit them in the face, and I figured the only way that I was going to make it through those rounds is if I hyped myself up, which was by listening to music. So there you go.
Oh, okay,
you learned a lot about me right now.
Hold on. Let's back up.
Okay.
How did that go? How did that go?
I won my first round. This was a final, by the way. Your final was to fight in front of the class. So I won my first.
David Fincher, your instructor? What the heck is going on?
I won my first match, and then I did not win my second match. So that's how that went.
Sorry to hear that. Was this at USC? Was this where this happened?
No. Before I went to USC, I went to the junior college for a year. So it was at West Valley College in Saratoga, California.
Nice. Very nice.
Beautiful this time of year.
Beautiful every time of year.
True.
Quick question about your headphones and your entrance. I know that I feel like we're dwelling on this a lot, but
you are. So let's move on.
Oh, okay. Yes.
There she is.
Yes, ma'am. So as far as entrances go, we would say, I think I would speak for a lot of people. I tend to not do that, but I will in this case. Speak for a lot of people when I say that you and Stacy have got it down when it comes to entrances. Where does that come from? Where's this idea of, well, I'm just going to put on a show? Where does that come from?
Where does that come from? That comes from, I have a background in theater. So when I was at USC, that was my major, although I did absolutely nothing with it aside from this. So here we go. I'm I have all this pent up frustration of never using my theater degree. And now it is finally going to work out for me. And I was a dancer. So I know that I've seen the Schmoedown from the very beginning. And the entrances are one of the most entertaining parts. And when someone doesn't do an entrance, it really bothers me. And so I felt that in order to compensate for those people that suck at it, I needed to do something really good.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll call out specific competitors and tell them their entrances suck, but I'm not going to do that on this show today.
Are you taking a shot at Matt Nost?
There's plenty of people I'm taking a shot at, but he's definitely on that list.
True.
He's mighty. So they say.
Mighty Mouse?
Sure.
That's who I know.
Sure. Well, I don't know who comes up with the nicknames. It just happens. I don't know. All right. So we'll move on from the entrances. As you said, I'll move on. As we see, you had your first...
you know what? I had this great professor at USC. Right. And anytime someone just kept talking, he would just say, "Get to your point. Get to your point." And this is Christian's father-in-law, actually, was my professor.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And so anytime I hear people talking all along, I just think of Jim Wilson, and I'm like, "Get to your point."
He's a big fan of Denis Villeneuve. And speaking of entrances, what is your favorite to date so far of your entrances?
Of the entrances that I have done with Stacy.
Actually, what are your favorite John Roca entrances?
Oh, specifically John Roca. Well, they all look so similar. So I'm going to have to go with the most current one.
Vest or blazer?
Or red shirt?
Yeah, that threw me off, Brian. In terms of
that was the goal.
Great, thanks. It's always helpful.
Well done.
Do you want to know what one of ours I think is a favorite, or what one of just the show in general?
What is your favorite, whether it's team or single? We only done one singles match, but what is your favorite team entrance of yours?
Of mine. My favorite team entrance might be the one where we are wearing the Wanger shirts. with hashtag musicals on the back, and that's probably because I came up with that idea, and I was like, we're gonna dress up like these guys, and we're also gonna take a little jab at them, because that's where, you know, it all really started. Is how can I make fun of someone, is where it started right there, unfortunately.
Actually, I love that entrance, because I thought it was a very kind of subtle jab. It wasn't too overt, but it was, if you were paying attention to the Schmoedown in the past, you get it, and you weren't very verbal about it. You just showed your shirts, and then I thought it was pretty clever.
Yes. It's a tribute and yet a jab at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, also, you guys kind of did the same thing with Wolves of Steel when you dressed up as both Mark and Clark.
Right, for our pre-interview.
Yes, of course.
All this is not very cheap either. Like, it's pretty expensive, and it takes a lot of time to figure out what you're going to do. And the fact that you are also thinking about your pre-interview too is another part of it, because like, I'm already thinking about what I'm doing for my next match pre-interview, and it's just like, it just continues to pile on. And like, Stacy and I already have ideas for like 2 matches down the line, and I'm like, I don't even know when our next match is, so when's that happening? Who knows?
So how expensive are Mark Riley costumes specifically?
Mark Riley costumes, well, it depends. I'm not sure. I was like, the one that I just recently saw that could have cost maybe $5, but
the wig has got to be the most expensive piece.
Yeah, well, it just depends. You can get like a $5 wig on Amazon, no big deal, but if you want like a good wig, they're going to be about $50. So
I have 2 rapid fire questions. Number 1, on a scale of 1 to 10, how creepy, since we're talking about Riley, was it when Riley came out as Jason's mother? How and did you get injured?
How creepy was it when he came out as Jason's mother? It was I already knew the reveal of what he was going to look like because I was backstage with him, so that wasn't creepy to me. I also had a few shots, so I was kind of a little bit not thinking about him coming towards me or charging me, so I just kind of was like, hey, all right, you're here.
But he did not hurt you. Like, you did not get any bruises from the table basically running into your legs.
No, not that I know of. I don't even remember him actually hitting me in any way, shape, or form. It was more the table.
Good to know that there were no assaults on the record for the Schmoedown. It's good to know. One more thing. I need to know if I had a theory last week. I want to know if you can maybe prove that for me. So in your pre-match interview with Jay, here we go again, with the headphones on and the hoodie and all that stuff, were you going for a Ronda Rousey vibe? Because that's what I got.
I did hear your analysis on this, and here's a few things that I want everyone to know. I don't watch wrestling. I like UFC, and I rarely am able to watch it when it is on, mainly because with kids, like, you can't really watch something like that in front of them.
Sure.
So I have no idea what her pre-stuff looks like. I barely have seen her in the ring. And so I don't know that she comes out to, I learned from you that she comes out to Bad Reputation, which is a great song. But yeah, so anything that I've done, it's just something that I've come up with and didn't know was already something that's been done, obviously. I mean, it doesn't seem original in general, but like, didn't know who would be doing it.
Well, minus the shades, for not knowing, minus the shades, you nailed it. So it just stuck with me because I'm such a big fan of hers. I was like, oh wow, she's doing the Rousey thing. That's awesome. But all right, let's move on out of the interrogation/interview, and let's get into some news. Let's talk about some future matchups that were announced this week by Christian Harloff himself, our fearless commissioner. Right off the top, we have yourself, Miss Brianne Chandler, versus Mike the Killer Kalinowski. That is a match that will happen apparently down the line. So I guess we have to get your thoughts. What do you know about Mike Kalinowski, and is he going to be on your list?
What do I know about Mike Kalinowski? I know that he's going to lose. What else do I know about Mike Kalinowski? I think that's really it. So
he has great hair. He has good hair.
He does. I did see him today. So there you go. It was really cute because someone was quizzing him on like trivia stuff, and I was just like sitting right in front of them, like, I know those answers too.
apparently he's a murderer of some variety as well. So maybe just, I don't know, maybe watch yourself. Other matches announced are John Humphrey versus Mark Andreyko, Elliot Dewberry versus John Schnepp, Stacey Howard versus Jonathan Voitko, Rachel Cushing versus Chris Hartwell, Night Sisters versus Hector Navarro and Adam Havlicek. We have the Late to the Party team versus an unknown competitor. And we have Tim from Late to the Party versus an unknown contender. So, Frank, I'm going to start with you on this one, buddy. You see all these matches. Which one sticks out to you?
Obviously, the Late to the Party stuff is very interesting. But aside from there...
Because I predicted it?
Well, okay.
Please.
Sure. No, one that really stood out to me is this John Humphrey, Mark Andreyko one because of the run that Humphrey had in the free-for-all. And we've seen about 3 different versions of who Mark Andreyko is, starting with the Bibiani match. You know, barely lost, obviously by 1 question. Then he faced off against, well, sort of Finstock against Macuga, if you want to look at it that way. That was a very interesting performance he gave in that one. And then his last match against Jay Washington, not a great showing by him, although he still won. So I'm kind of curious as to what kind of Andreyko we'll see and whether or not John Humphrey can keep his level of play up that we saw in the free-for-all. Although it's kind of deceiving a little bit, John Humphrey's performance. He skated by with, I think 2 questions right a couple of rounds just because of, Matt Nost, was not exactly involved, you could say. So he kind of got by with that one. I'm interested to see how good John Humphrey can be because in the teams, him and Greg are decent enough. So I was kind of surprised by Humphrey's run, but this is the match that, aside from the Late to the Party stuff, which will be very interesting because they're the first fans competing, this John Humphrey, Mark Andreyko one is the one that caught my eye the most. But they're all very interesting matches in their own right.
Brian, what do you think? You see this list too. What sticks out to you?
I'm a little puzzled by a few things. I wanted to see Brianne play John Humphrey. I feel like that is the more suitable matchup. Kalinowski versus Andreyko would be interesting as a result. Both guys have shown flashes of really strong prowess, Andreyko especially. But I'm really surprised that Rachel Cushing, after her recent dominance, is getting the rookie in the hardest. I think that it's a great score for him for his first match, but I feel like she has played up a little bit. And so I'm just kind of surprised by these choices, especially Elliot Dewberry and John Schnepp. Dewberry is someone that I think is going to have a lot of success in singles. And so with Schnepp not being too interested in singles in the past, I feel like it's kind of a strange path to start him on. But yeah, I'm also curious about Late to the Party, Tim Franco. And we'll see what Hector and Adam can do. Hector and Adam have always had promise, but they can't seem to appear consistently or have a consistent name. So hopefully a consistent team name will lend itself to future success.
Brianne, besides your own matchup, is there anything on the list that sticks out to you? Any matches you're looking forward to personally?
Obviously, I'm looking forward to Stacey Howard making her singles debut against Jonathan, and I like that she's going against him because I think it's an interesting dynamic that I went against Perry, and now she's going to go against Jonathan. So I like that particularly. I actually think John Humphrey and Rachel Cushing would be an interesting matchup. Personally, and I think that Humphrey's going against Andreyko because of the fact that they both did well in the free-for-all. But that's my only reasoning behind that. I'm also looking forward to Hector and Adam getting back in because they've had 2 matches and they haven't had any in 2017, I don't think. So it's time. It's time to see them again.
Sound logic. I like it.
Quickly point out one thing, because this has been talked about in the past in the Schmoedown about the women competitors. In this matchups that have been announced, we have obviously Brianne, that's 1. Stacey, Rachel, the Night Sisters is another 2. I think in the Inner Geekdom we have Emma Fife is in there, and
Charlie Feldman and Erica Ishii.
So a lot more women are now participating in the Schmoedown, which is a great sign for the league, and I'm really happy to see it all starting to get evened out, if you will.
Changing of the guard.
I wouldn't say evened out yet, but it's getting there. So it's making progress. And I look forward to continuing to see that progress.
And of course, we just saw Jenny Nicholson in the Star Wars Schmoedown, and I'm sure we're going to see her again pretty soon. It seemed like to me that the crowd responded very well to her, so hopefully we see her back. I really enjoyed her. She's a very nice person. The match that sticks out to me in kind of a bad way is Chris Hartwell versus Rachel Cushing. Now, Chris, nice guy. Talked to him at Celebration, nice dude. Poor guy's going to get smashed, I think. I think Rachel is, like you said, Brian, I think Rachel's a little bit above Chris's grade here. I think there's a... Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it's significant. I mean, not to be harsh on the guy, but he was awful at free-for-all. So I just feel like Rachel deserved a little bit bigger singles debut than this. No offense.
That was a little harsh. It was a little stiff, but I'll allow it. I think that's a tough debut. I think Rachel's shown a lot of promise as somebody that's going to be earmarked for greatness, I guess. I don't know. Is that cliche? Mm-hmm. But I think she's going to do very well. I'm actually, surprisingly enough, I'm very interested in the Dewberry and Schnepp matchup. I just want to see what they're like against each other. I want to see their entrances. I want to see how they do a back and forth with each other, because John Schnepp is a large, scary man, and Elliot likes to talk and get in people's faces. So I don't know what the intimidation factor is going to be there. So I'm a little bit.
Isn't Elliot a babyface now, though?
Yeah, well,
hasn't he turned? Isn't he a good guy now?
That's what he says.
He's kind of a tweener, but we're going to talk about the triple threat match that was announced by Christian, the commissioner, via Facebook Live this week on the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Facebook page, where he confirmed that at Collider Collision, it will be the new champion, Mark Yodi Riley, defending his title against not only Dan Murrell, but the outlaw John Roca. Triple threat city. Brianne, I'm actually going to start with you on this one.
Great.
What do you think of this matchup?
Guys, you're not going to like my opinion on this matchup, because I'm tired of just seeing the same shit over and over again. Let's get some new people in there. That's all I got to say.
All right, Frank.
No, I'm actually excited to see this because I am excited to see this. It's the top 3 players in the league at the moment who have proven the most thus far. And it is the triple threat match to end this cycle. So I like that it has some sort of a finale, if you will, to these 3 going after the title repeatedly over the past several months. So the fact that it's a triple threat and the 2 losers will have to win 3 straight matches, at least 3 straight matches, to even a shot at the title again, I think is a great stipulation that Christian threw in there. It's going to prevent or hold back some of the, whoever loses. It's going to hold them back for a little bit to get back to title contention. And I like that aspect of the triple threat. I'm really excited to see it all go down. And I think the anticipation is starting to build up in Schmoeville.
Brian, before I get to you, I want to make one quick point. I like the part where it's, you got to win 3 matches to get another shot. I actually would have gone 50 steps further and said, whoever doesn't win the championship, you're done for a year. You cannot challenge, not like out of the league, but you cannot challenge for that title for a year.
Look how long it takes for Merle to get into a match. So, it could take him very well a year to even amass 3 matches in a year, and same thing for anybody else.
And does it expire after a year too? Like, if you haven't met these requirements within a year, we're just gonna let that dissolve.
It sounds like 3 matches whenever they take place, however soon they take place, or how spread apart they are. I think that seems like the only stipulation is 3 matches. When those matches happen remains to be seen.
But quick question: if it's like 3 matches, are we talking like Inner Geekdom, like a team match?
Well, 3 wins. 3. Inner Geekdom is kind of its own thing, and I think Christian's even said he's leaning towards separating those rankings from the general singles play. So I don't think singles is going to have, Inner Geekdom is going to have any play in rankings or counting towards those wins for a singles championship.
Brian, I didn't forget about you. I do just want to make one more point, dare I say. I know that Roca wants all the records.
Get to the point, Aaron.
I'm sorry. Roca wants all the records, all the belts. Why not go for a different belt? That's just me. Brian, I want to bring you in on this discussion because I know you have thoughts. What do you think of the triple threat match, sir?
Well, despite my initial concerns about Sam's free-for-all request to play the winner of Riley Roca being virtually ignored, I don't blame him for wanting no part of a triple threat match. But I think he'll bide his time and really strike when the time is right, kind of like a Gil Hicks jackhammer. But I am glad that the current triumvirate will be ended for a while. So it's going to be an entertaining match, most definitely. And good luck, Mark Riley.
Brian, what the fuck is a Gil Hicks?
So is that a Tombstone reference? I don't understand.
I cannot reveal it because someone out there will know what I'm talking about, and they will be laughing hysterically because of it.
All one person. Is it?
It's all that matters.
Just
One
you
person.
when you listen back to this.
Must be a Better Call Saul joke. All right. Well, now that that's out of the way, let's the news. No more news. Let's talk about the team recap. The team match that went down this week. It was Team Heroes. It was the iteration of John Schnepp and Robert Meyer Burnett versus Team Trek, Jason Inman and Scott Mance. Unfortunately for Team Trek, it did not go well. They suffered their second straight loss, and Team Heroes continues to slowly get up the hill towards a title shot, whatever iteration they have, whether it's Campia or Schnepp or Schneppia, as I said last week. Who knows how they're going to get there? Who knows what's next? But I do want to start with Brian on this one. What did you think overall of the match, and where does Team Trek and Team Heroes go from here?
Well, this is a classic example of the wheel dictating this match. And we've said this for a while, the past year, the wheel. But there have been a lot of different determining factors the last couple months, I'd say. But this week especially, the wheel was as important as it's ever been. And weird observation, the new wheel has led to more repeat spins than you might think. I'm too lazy to keep track of this, but it's definitely a thing given the smaller number of categories. I always forget to look for this, but I would always make sure that I am not spinning from my respin category, like the category that I just passed on. I would make sure to always shift it to another category before doing my respin, because obviously Trek had a huge disadvantage when they spun romantic comedies again. And Scott Mance kind of went back to these bad habits that he used to have earlier in the Schmoedown last year, where he would rush, and he would often rush and get the wrong answer. So that was the case with the Forgetting Sarah Marshall question. That happened later with the Bill and Ted's question, I believe. So Scott Mance, sometimes he gets overconfident and doesn't think things through and just answers too quickly, and he doesn't confer with his partner, and it comes back to haunt him. So old habits coming back to haunt Team Trek in this case. And can you get a better stroke of luck if you're Team Heroes? And what a bold move by Robert Meyer Burnett. I feel like this isn't the first time that they've gotten this stroke of luck with comic book movies. And I kind of consider passing on Will Smith to spin again. I kind of consider this the Schmoedown equivalent of hitting on 16 when the dealer is showing a face card in blackjack. Some people would have played it safe with Will Smith, and just like some people would stay on 16. But Heroes went for the win. They played to win, and they got their dream category, comic book movies, and that kind of decided the match from there, despite being down 7 points when they got that category.
Fair enough. Very, very well. Deep analysis. I liked it. Brianne, what did you think of this match? You like Scott Mance?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was sleeping for a minute there because that was a long monologue, Brian.
Wow.
It was definitely a wordy match, is what I'll say. But when they got comic book movies for Heroes, I just thought, how many times have they spun comic book movies? Thank you, Frank. He is showing me that it is 2. He could have just said it himself, but decided to just put his fingers up so everyone at home who's listening to this cannot see.
Well, we had countdown issues earlier, so yeah.
I see. We don't want to get into those laughing fits again, but I just don't even understand the type of luck that they have. I don't know. Do I need to rub Robert Meyer Burnett's head? Like, is that how I'm going to be able to get a good wheel spin? My
Please
goodness.
Don't.
I won't, but I was just wondering, like, how do I get a good spin? Is my question. I feel they're very lucky to get their category that they like twice.
It's ballsy, though, to pass on Will Smith, which is a category that every other team would take. So respect for that.
Well, I'll make a quick point. Stacy did kiss Robert on the cheek during the free-for-all, so perhaps maybe she absorbed some of that magic.
Let's hope that
There you
works
go.
for us.
Yeah, see,
oh,
this is-
dear.
This is why we do this show, because we get into the meat of things that really matter. An off-chance kiss on the cheek. Frank Janisch, your thoughts on this match?
I think Hero's entire strategy when it comes to the second round is to try and get comic book movies or Marvel. They're going to spin a second time if they don't get that. They've spun their other two matches where they didn't get it. They spun a second time to try and get a favorable category because they are team heroes. That's what they know. That's what they do. So to me, I don't know if it was like a ballsy move. It was their only move, in my opinion, because I think if they got any other category, now I can't recall what other categories were on the wheel, but I don't think they're going to end up with 9 points of their own from their round. To me, they are basically a one-trick pony, if you will. They're a comic book or bust. Because if you look at that first round, Schnepp got 3 out of 8, and Burnett was 5 out of 8, which isn't that bad, but Schnepp, he knows what he knows. And if he doesn't get anything that he knows, he doesn't care. Like, I forget which question was it where you had to just name a city? Was that Footloose, I think it was? Or
Yeah.
So take a shot at any random city in the country. And right instead, he doodles and puts something else on the board that doesn't make sense. And I know they even asked Burnett, like, hey, is this cool with you? He just kind of just flaked on this question. He could have just answered any city. It's not that hard. But that's Burnett's problem. So, and if he's not going to do anything about it or doesn't care enough to do anything about it, that's all on Team Heroes. So aside from their first round performance, I think second round that's all they're going to go for, because I just don't. Although I do think Burnett is a little more, his knowledge is more broad, but if he's going to try and hit a home run, they're going to go for a comic book every time.
Here's my question. If they end up ever getting a title shot, let's say they win, does Campia also get a belt?
That would fall under what, this is a pro wrestling thing, so I'll just...
Yes, you step in because you have a belt right behind you.
I sure do. But all the belts. Anyway, it is what's considered the Freebird rule. That's what it was in pro wrestling. There was a team of 3 guys known as the Fabulous Freebirds, and when 2 of them competed for a team title match, they won the championship. So they all 3 got to share the titles, and then whichever combination wanted to wrestle against another team, they're all the champions. So
okay,
that's probably what they're going for, I imagine. And the New Day would be a current reference, but nobody cares about that. But yeah, I mean, I had more things to talk about in depth on this post, but I was actually just drawing a cat on my whiteboard this entire time. So I just completely...
Just like Schnepp.
Exactly.
Well, let me ask you guys. Do you guys remember when Mance used to do this in the early part of last year where he would answer too soon and not stop to think or confer? And this would end up costing Trek a great deal. Do you remember this at all? I mean, he would do it in his singles matches too, where... he would just get thrown off by the first thing that kind of sounded familiar.
I'm not sure how much it cost them because they had only lost once previous to this match.
And his singles matches too. I added that part as well. But it was something that we talked, and it was a big observation. We talked about a great deal at the time.
Thanks for.
So what you're saying, Brian, I'm gonna take all this knowledge in. What you're saying is Scott Mance gets excited.
He gets excited and he answers too soon instead of stopping to collect himself, maybe talk to Jason a little bit in moments when he can confer. This is something that has haunted him in the past, singles or team. So thought it was interesting in this case.
What's something that I've always said with Team Trek, you have to have. That's why Jason is such a good partner for Scott, is because Jason can ground him and be like, hey, let's focus. It did kind of go off the rails a little bit in this match, and I kind of felt bad for this team because they were one question, 1/2 of a millisecond buzz in answer, Josh Macuga rule, whatever, of being the team champions. So, and now they've lost 2 straight, kind of going backwards. Inman himself has lost 2 straight. So it's on a downturn right now for Team Trek. Hopefully they can turn it around. Frank, did you have any stat work on this match that you wanted to throw in there?
Well, Team Trek was 16 of 25 for 64% correct. Heroes was 16 of 26, and that brings you down to 61.5%. So Team Trek, slightly the better team in this one. It wasn't a great match outside of the first round for Trek, where they were each Inman and Mance were 6 of 6 for a total of 12 points. A 4-point lead is generally a good cushion heading into the second round, but yeah, they got hit with rom-coms twice. So that kind of did him in. And you look at neither team had, if they had landed on rom-coms, it was not going to be pretty. And I think that goes for probably at least half the league, and that's probably being generous.
Not for me.
Well, exactly. Except for Brianne. Other than that, I mean, this match was fairly, I guess, average for how the league has performed thus far this season.
But Aaron, you mentioned this. They still want to play the Patriots, but now they're going to have to wait a long time to get back up the ladder to have a shot at them again. So costly loss, if I don't say so.
Who are they going to play next is the question I have.
That is a great question.
Team IGN is still lurking out there. They are still ready to take this thing.
I would be horrified for them to play Team IGN. That sounds like a massacre. I do want to say one thing, and this is something you'll rarely ever hear me on the show knock someone's movie knowledge. But seriously, if you don't know Julia Roberts was in Stepmom, you don't deserve a shot at the title.
That was a deep cut for them. It was like, no, I got this.
Even I knew that. Jeez.
Did you know that the kid was Jenna Malone? Come on,
really?
Man. Jeez.
And guys, we learned that Mark Ellis, apparently he does not want to have children, or he said, I'm not going to have children. So that comment gave me the giggles once again.
Of course, Ellis does tell the yucks. All right, let's try to hone it back in here. Let's talk about our final thoughts on this match. Was it a disappointing effort for Team Trek, or was it the rise of heroes? Brianne, your thoughts?
Neither of those things. I just felt it was a match that happened and great. Yay.
No, yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to put it. It wasn't anything spectacular. It's kind of started out that way for Trek, but then everything just kind of fizzled because Trek didn't even do that great, or didn't do great in the third round either. They only got 1 out of 3, which
I just want to see them like continually every time they show up have a Cameron Diaz question somewhere just because.
Yeah. What is the obsession with Cameron Diaz? Like, what is going on?
Because they spun Cameron Diaz at one time, and that was basically why they lost, I believe, because they had a hard time answering the questions about her. And then now, ever since then, they've always had a Cameron Diaz question come up every single time.
Oh, very weird. Good stat, Brian. your final thoughts.
Trek should have won this. Like I said, Mance rushed 2 questions that were worth 3 points at the time. They lost by 2. So Scott Mance was all the difference. Had he slowed down, had he taken the time to really think it through or talk it out with Jason in round 2, they should have won this. So obviously Team Heroes did a lot to catch back up, but Team Trek blew it more than Heroes won it, in my opinion.
Just for the record, on that Cameron Diaz fiasco, wasn't really that much a fiasco. They were 4 of 6. For 6 points. So not a lot better than they did in rom-coms.
Let's go on to the singles match this week. It was the Godfather, Drew McWeeny, which had an entrance that I'm sure Brianne did not care for, versus Jeff and Sneider, who brought the energy and brought JTE, unfortunately. And unfortunately for Drew McWeeny, it did not go his way. A very low-scoring round 1, started to pick up after 2, and kind of finished pretty strong in round 3, but it was the Sneider, Jeff Sneider, taking it 19-14. Frank, what the heck? What'd you think of this one?
I was completely lost in this match. I'm normally not even that great to begin with, but this was just like on another level. Like someone must have pissed off Chris Kaliski, because he just, for whatever reason, these are some of the hardest questions or most obscure questions. I never thought I'd hear a Black Beauty question in my life. In this,
I knew that. Got that one.
I mean, I actually did know that, but I never expected that question to ever pop up. But this match was just so bizarre. I mean, it was pretty crappy in the first round, pretty good in the second round, quite competitive in the third, but it didn't go the way of McWeeny. And I guess we shouldn't really be surprised anymore that whoever we tout as being the next great thing, it just isn't so, at least not right away. And I think, we've seen that with Bibiani and now McWeeny. So
you don't think Jeff Sneider's the next big thing?
No, I don't.
Really?
Yeah, I think because, look at he got an easy win against El Miembe. The guy barely knew what was going on. So, and then he loses to Stuckman. Not a great loss.
He had a bad day, really bad day, exceptionally bad day. But he did beat Jason Inman. Only Inman scored like 6 points that match. So
Well, look, Jason Inman is not that great to begin with. He's a great guy, but he's just not that great in the Schmoedown. I'm sorry. So he really hasn't had a great, meaningful win, except for this one right here. He lost to
Josh Macuga. Josh Macuga was a big win a couple months ago.
Okay, I'll give you that one. Too. I'll give you that. But other than that, and now he has this win, in which bust for McWeeny, sure, but I'm not sold on Sneider.
Wow, that is some stiff talk.
Harsh.
Yeah, I will agree that Splisky definitely brought the wood, especially in that first round, if you will. Brianne, I'd like to get your thoughts on the match overall.
That first round was rough. I was like, I don't know if I knew Black Beauty. That may have been the only one I knew. But
tough sledding.
Yeah, and then I love it when matches come down to the last question, just because I like that. It's pretty even up until then, and it's not like, oh, this person's really going to take it. So I appreciate when it can come down to the last question. I appreciated that I knew the answer to the last question, but I don't know. I'm glad Jeff won. He's a friend. I was on a show today, so that's probably why. That's right. Invite me back, Jeff.
You weren't in attendance for this matchup at all, were you? But Brian, I'm sure you have some very serious thoughts in regards to the end Sneider. So why don't you tell us your thoughts?
I do. And first off, I love what McWeeny did in the entrance. I think I was the first person to fire Jeff too. So great shot being fired by Drew. He's not one to really do that so far. And I love how his entrances continue to be off time. He continues to come out too early, and Christian kind of sold it, kind of made a thing about it. So I enjoyed that. I'm shocked that McWeeny did not get hot shots in round one. I continue to be shocked how many Knight's Tale questions there are. We've referenced that before. But look, I'm going to go against Frank on this. I've said for a while that Sneider is better than his record indicated, especially after beating Macuga recently. He's beaten Inman in the past, and Inman is better than that match portrayed him to be. And I think he's just as dangerous as anyone. You can look at some of these questions that he's getting, and these are not easy questions that he's pulling out in big moments. So certain players are more suited for team play, but Sneider has proven that he can have success in both. And I will never bet against Sneider at this point. He's proven me wrong twice now with this Macuga match and now this one. So McWeeny, though, despite losing, he had a fantastic second round in classics. His old school Hollywood prowess is why you cannot dismiss him moving forward. He doesn't seem to have a weakness on the wheel yet. Perhaps you could argue sports movies a little bit, but the planets did not align in this, but he still showed that in the wheel rounds, he can kill you. So this leads to a bigger point, and we kind of touched on it a few minutes ago. I think we get too wrapped up in strong debuts with Bibiani, Godfather, Android, Vulture. We all get carried away. We all start projecting people once they have a big debut. Sneider did not have the most impressive start to his career. He was 2-2, had some ugly matches, but I think we should start valuing that a bit more and not judging people just by one match only. I think you can evolve as a player, and I just think overall we need to stop kind of getting ahead of ourselves and anointing the next person when it takes some time to develop as a player, and I think Sneider is proof of that.
I think everybody makes good points. Nobody in this league is going to go undefeated. It's not going to happen. It's impossible, I would say. It was interesting to me that Creed came back to bite somebody else. It nearly ended Mark Riley last week when he missed the Creed question. And then fast forward this week, McWeeny gets the Creed question. That did him in. So apparently everybody needs to go watch Creed again. I mean,
and A Knight's Tale, because I'm at the point where are we at the point where we're run out of Knight's Tale questions, or do I need to go back and rewatch it because are there going to be more?
I think the strategy is if there's any question about like, oh, this took place in this medieval place, it's a Knight's Tale. Like you just write it down because you're more than likely you're going to be right. So just kind of keep that in mind. Another
sure.
Tip there.
But guys, McWeeny chose 70s and classics in his wheel rounds the last two matches, and he has dominated for the most part. So
I just want to see how everyone does once Dance Films hits that wheel. Like I want that to be on there, and it should be on there.
That could be your classics
/ musicals, or
hold on. Let me just stop you right there.
Okay, please.
Dance films and musicals are completely different genres.
Okay, please educate me.
So Bring It On, Center Stage,
Step Up.
Step Up. Excuse me, Brian. I'm getting there. Okay. So, anyways, they all fall into the dance film category. There's no singing in those movies. There's also, I mean, we could even say like there's music movies where like Sing Street. That's not a musical, but it's a music movie.
Pitch Perfect.
That Thing You Do.
Yeah. Lots of great examples that you guys are throwing out here. Thank you so much. But anyways.
Ricky and the Flash.
No. R.I.P. Jonathan Demme.
Anyways, I feel like we could go deeper into this area, and dance films is definitely one. And I know Bibiani shares my viewpoint on this, and he would like to see dance films because he loves the Step Up franchise.
That's very... Huh, I didn't... Okay.
What about Dan's films?
Yeah, we always get those every
As
time
in Dan Merle.
plays.
Oh. Okay.
It's pretty much every question is a Dan film.
Well,
Someone thinks I'm funny.
What the heck? Well, speaking of things that Bibiani likes, horror thriller for Jeff Sneider in round 2. That surprised me that he stuck with it. And he was very adamant about sticking with it.
He's really good in horror thriller. Like, don't underestimate him in that category.
He's sneaky. He's sneaky good. I keep saying it, but don't snooze. You cannot underestimate this guy.
That's why they call me In Snyder, because he's always on the ins. Not well, it doesn't really work, but you got it. Yeah, you got it. But yeah, horror thriller, I didn't see that coming, and that was a new wrinkle to his game. I did not know that Jeff Sneider was one of my people and was a genre fan. That's awesome. So yeah, that definitely surprised me. And of course, in round 3, that ended up being the question that he took it home on, was a horror thriller question.
And I know that he has not seen that film. What do you know? What do you know?
Ooh, you got the inside dirt. I like it. All right.
It's only because I talked to him today.
So, that's right. Please have her back. Okay.
Yeah.
Jeff
Snyder.
On
the shows, all the time. That's
that could be your thing. Roka wants all the records, all the belts. You want all the shows, all that.
All the time.
All the time. All right. So Jeff Sneider, 1914, gets the win. He's kind of in the finals of this mini sort of makeshift tournament that we have, where it was Sneider versus McWeeny. On the other side, it was Bibiani Harloff. Now Sneider takes a step up, and it's very possible that he is one win away from a title shot, dare I say. So we're going to jump into the post-match interview here. Sneider kept his word about not being interviewed by Emma Fyffe. He said on Twitter that he would not take any questions from her because he feels like she is biased and she's always downing the Patriots. And Emma did not take kindly to it. She was very upset about it, as she should have been. I mean, come on, she's just there to do a job, and Jeff did not feel like doing that interview, and I that was weird. Frank, what did you think of this?
I don't know, because it's never happened before like this, and I did like it. It was a new spin on these post-match events. I'm continually surprised at what happens in these post-match events, whether it's Roka or now with Finstock or Dagnino or whoever he is, I'm not sure. And then all this Sneider business, obviously Brianne's post-match when she had Jay there. So I don't have any expectations other than what something new am I gonna see? So I thought it was fun that they kind of, I guess they didn't have Ken, but Ken ended up stepping in. I thought that was pretty great because I always love seeing Ken, whether he's commentating or whatever he's doing. He's a great guy. So really cool. And then I was just kind of rolling with it and seeing where it would go, and I enjoyed it.
Brian, what did you think of this post-match interview?
I really dug it. This is what I like, not like most about the Schmoedown, but it's an aspect that I truly like. And Dagnino showed up. He called Emma a loser. So they're really going hard at this. And Ken came out, obviously, and he asked him about a new teammate for the Lions Den, or a new addition to the Lions Den. And Jeff had one of his best quotables to date. We'll know it when we see it. It's kind of like pornography. And I've got a theory about who might be joining the Lions Den, but I'm gonna save it for later in this episode. I liked how the Beast then came out. Apparently he wants Sneider after Christian, which leads me to believe that there's no way in heck the Beast is going to lose against Christian. Usually when they get ahead of themselves like this, oftentimes it plays out like that, knock on wood. But I loved when Tom was kind of pushed out of frame by the Beast, and he had to come back later on the other side to kind of reclaim the spotlight. So great post interview all the way around.
It was a very Ricky Bobby moment of I don't know what to do with my hands.
Exactly.
Brianne, your thoughts on the post match interview and Emma not being able to do her job?
Well, I feel bad for Emma, first of all, but because she's just trying to do what she has to do. I also think it's really cute that this little fraternity is just coming in just to support their person. How adorable is that?
Speaking of which, I just want to throw this out there. Is there any chance that yourself and Stacy are thinking about adding teammates to a stable as well? Because I had proposed this last week. But is there anybody you're keeping in mind, or maybe
12 Degrees of feature film?
I don't even know what this whole stable thing is all about. Again, I don't watch wrestling, nor do I give a shit. So no.
Oh, you just stabbed Aaron in the heart. You don't even know.
It's basically a squad. To put it in pop terms, a squad, like
okay.
Taylor Swift.
Got it.
Okay, well, I'll just add
now
you to
you're
the
speaking
list
my language, Brian. So
Cara Delevingne.
if I'm gonna put together a dance team, then sure, I've got some people in mind for that.
Well, allow me to throw this out there because I had this as your suggested dancing partners, and last week on Twitter it kind of got all jumbled. But I suggested that the producer / seducer Nick Scarpino, I'm sure you know him well. I thought maybe he would be an addition, so it'd be yourself, him, and Stacy, and then I thought that he and Macuga had like a weird like bro gel vibe going on. So I thought maybe we'll put Macuga in there too.
Okay.
And then we will call it 6 Degrees of Seduction. Your thoughts?
I'm liking the name. Josh is a good dancer. I do know this. These are the requirements. Right. If we're gonna do some sort of whatever you call it, a stable.
He goes to lots of weddings.
He does. He tears up that dance floor. Nick has some okay moves. He can be taught, though. So, I mean, I'm really killing it right now. Guys, I really should do stand-up, obviously.
One thing I'm taking away from this match that is, if there's one minus off of this match, is that we won't get to see, right now, anyway, Bibiani versus McWeeny. And that was a match that I think all of us wanted to see. I think that's a match that McWeeny and Bibiani wanted to see. And they were on pardon the pun, they were on a collision course to meet each other. And it was going to be awesome and epic, and two giant men doing trivia. So, okay, take that for whatever you will. But that's my only detraction. Let's wrap it up. Let's get final thoughts. Brianne, I will start with you. Final thoughts on the match and going forward. What do you think?
Well, I know you're saying you're disappointed that they're not going to meet. I'm sure they will eventually. But also, Jeff was, someone that worked with Drew as well. So, and Drew has been a mentor to him too. So, I find maybe allegedly, I don't know.
I'm just quoting Drew.
All right. So anyways.
Ain't it cool news?
But yeah, so I think you'd see this similar situation with Bibiani, but they're definitely going to meet up. I'm sure of it. Maybe it's in a back alley somewhere doing some trivia. I'll eat it. I'll let you guys know how it goes.
just standing there by a cardboard box, just doing movie trivia. That'd be awesome. What do you think, Frank? Give me your final thoughts and where do they go from here?
It's gonna be really interesting to see Sneider. I think, oh boy. I'm starting to think, because Harloff put this out there, that he doesn't want the belt. But I have this weird feeling that maybe it's going to turn out exactly the opposite way Harloff planned. And he's going to have no choice but to compete for the belt. That means he's going to have to beat Sneider, which means he would have to have beaten Bibiani. And I think...
Wait, are you saying that Christian is now going to beat the Beast because he wants to see McWeeny and Beast play? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that he'll end up beating Bibiani because at first it sounds like, what do you want to lose? Because when he ended up making that matchup, I thought right off the bat, he would lose to Bibiani. But over time, I'm starting to think that, Harloff, because he doesn't compete as much or as often, people forget just how good he is. I mean, look at that Roca match. I mean, that's the best match they've ever had in terms of really almost everything, especially the level of play. I started thinking, well, I think Harloff is going to go farther than he wants to. I think he set up that match to probably lose. I'm speculating, and I think it's going to end up going the opposite way he planned, and then he's going to roll with it and then say, the hell with it, let's go for the title. And then hopefully he ends up with a rematch with Roca and his revenge tour will be complete.
I like what you're saying because the promoter in Christian wants to see McWeeny and Bibiani. He knows the fans want to see it. So I think he's now going to try to beat the Beast.
Oh,
and
I
that
think
way he can get that match.
I think he was always going to try, but I think he was like, who's a really tough opponent for me to play that I could probably see myself losing to, and that would be Bibiani.
But now he's more invested. He's more invested now.
Well, I think he will be if he does beat Bibiani. I think he'll find himself way more invested than he planned on being after his match with Bibiani. I don't know. It's just a weird hunch.
I'm saying he's more motivated to get Bibiani and McWeeny matched up than for him to win a title. He'd rather see them get matched up than to get a belt for himself. So I like what you're saying, even though we're saying it in different ways. But
yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
I think he's going to get what he wants ultimately with Beast and McWeeny, even if he's going to upset Bibiani in the process. Final point on Drew. I think when he said being humbled is a good thing, that's absolutely true. For Drew to be humbled a little bit, I think that's the best thing that can happen to him, just like Bibiani losing to JTE. While it may not seem like it at the time, it is now going to be a great thing for Bibiani as he's likely improved in scores and soundtracks. But I gave away the majority of my points already. We cannot underestimate Jeff Sneider moving forward. We cannot get wrapped up in big debuts anymore. It does take some time for some players to evolve, to get comfortable. And we just saw with our guest, Brianne, she's played for a few matches now, and she just had her coming out party last week. So some players evolve.
Talked about in the third person. It's amazing, guys.
Some players evolve. I'm trying to compliment you. Some players evolve differently, and you cannot dismiss Drew moving forward when you see what he can do with classics in round 2. So sports movies may be a bit of an issue, but I would not want to face that guy in a wheel round because he is dangerous. Oh, one more thing. Credit to Magic Hat and Cody. I once dismissed Josh's fantasy segment as being redundant and unnecessary, and ever since then, he has gone out of his way to make that entertaining. So I actually look forward to that now. Just for me. Absolutely just for me. And I look forward to it now. I never thought I'd say that.
And as we know, Josh Macuga, big fan of Schmoedown.com writer Frank Janisch.
Oh, jeez. Is that what they call it that I do?
Yeah. All right, so that's going to do it for the recaps of the matches this week. All right, guys, we are back. We are talking team preview action this week. It is team action. Ben Bateman and Andrew Guy versus the Nerds Watch, Ken Knapsack and Rachel Cushing. Brianne, I'm going to start with you on this. Who do you have? Who do you like? How do you see it going?
Gosh, who do I have? I love both of these teams, just in general, but after Action could not get Henry as Indiana Jones's first name, I really have to go with Nerds Watch, just based on that alone.
I'm pretty sure they also missed a Fast and the Furious question, but
then they're automatically dead to me.
That's kind of what I was angling for. Brian, what do you think? Who you leaning towards in this one?
Nerds Watch has the best player on both sides, but they also have the biggest wild card on both sides in Ken Knapsack. As long as Ken can hold his own in round 1, I think the Nerds Watch will be fine. And if they get a good wheel spin that happens to align with Ken's taste, that is just the icing on the cake. So I have to go with the Nerds Watch over Team Action, who they're both solid, but I didn't strike or consider either of them to be spectacular. Just two solid players who are obviously highly beatable. So Nerds Watch all the way.
Frank, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to take Team Action, even though Knapsack, as you pointed out, is a wild card. To remind everybody, he was answering 64% in that 2014 tournament. But I think what's going to happen is...
What year is it now?
I'm
clear.
We are in the year 2017.
That's called shade. It's called shade.
Well, in his single performance, he was answering 64%, which is not bad. But what I think is going to happen here is Knapsack will have a really good game. Rachel will come back down to earth. And unfortunately, Ken's performance will not be enough to give them the win. And it'll end up being Team Action with the win, I think. Yeah.
I think Action's going to give us a good entrance, though, because they like theatrics. And sure. I appreciate that. So I'm looking forward to their entrance.
I don't know.
Aren't they going for, isn't it like a Tom Cruise theme, I think is what they're aiming for?
I don't know if that's going to be their theme going into this match, but who knows? It could be.
As long as they stop clapping after each correct answer of theirs, I'll be satisfied.
I think they were keeping in character. So we'll see.
Not my character.
Okay, hashtag.
All right. Well, I'll just throw in my 2 cents. I think that Nerds Watch will win. I never bet against Ken Napzok, so that's pretty much my doing right
Good
there.
motto to have. Great motto to have.
Never bet against Ken Napzok.
Friend of the show.
The guy's amazing. Friend of the show. Great guy. All right, let's move on to the singles preview this week. It is the Wild Man Josh Macuga versus Tom Dagnino. Benstock, Tom Dagnino, I don't even know anymore. It's the match that will have no knockouts, no TKOs. It will go until the bitter end. Josh Macuga could win this thing. I don't know what the total points he can score is. He can win this thing 34-0. Who knows? Frank Janisch, how do you see it going, man?
Obviously, it's got to be Macuga. Please be Macuga. I mean, how could it not be? I just, based on everything we've seen from Finstock / Dagnino, I don't even know how he even got started with the Schmoedown to begin with. He's that bad. So and Macuga, he knows a lot of stuff. He's good. He's really good at these educated guesses. So I'm expecting a very high point total. Probably, I will say 37 points.
Oh, wow. Okay. Brianne, What do you think?
I just want to ask the panel, is there anyone that actually thinks Tom will win? Say yes. All right, so there we go. We can move on.
Brian.
Something has to happen in this match, as it's going to get old watching Macuga wax the floor with Tom Dagnino. So I think we've got some major kayfabe headed our way via this match. And while Macuga will win, I think this match marks the reconciliation of Josh and Tom. And it's going to end with Macuga joining the Lion's Den. This is what I was teasing earlier. Sneider said that they were looking at people to join their stable during his post interview, and that sounded like setup for this match, which may have been recorded on that very same day. So it's kind of a broken clock situation, but I'm putting it out there because the bragging rights of being right are just too worth it not to do it. So yeah, I think Josh will win, but in doing so, they reconcile and he joins the Lion's Den.
I don't want that. I don't want that at all.
Can't be in 6 degrees of seduction.
Yeah, really, what the heck? You're
Crap.
blowing a hole in my idea. Gosh, trademark. I don't see it going any other way than Macuga winning. But just round table real quick. We can all just jump in on this. What is your percentage odds that Tom Dagnino will win? Is it 0? Is there a 1% chance?
I'll give him 1%. I'll give him 1% just because we've seen crazier things happen. And I'm kind of smelling some sort of shenanigans is going to happen during this match, but
always with him. I mean, he can't push someone else out there this time, but that's the one thing. Finstock, he could get away with putting someone else out there, but this time he kind of has to face it. But I think they are going to flip the script in the end, as I said.
I'd love it if they try to hide JTE underneath the desk and he's feeding them answers. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Something crazy is going to happen, though. They have to make up for the lopsided defeat with something like that.
Okay, well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. What happens if Tom Dagnino wins?
I can't
The whole
compute
thing
that.
is over. That's it. Schmoedown is done.
Skynet wins. It's game over.
What if
I feel like Josh would quit the Schmoedown if he lost to Tom. I don't think he could show his face in that place ever again if he lost to Tom after talking all this crap.
I do not want Tom and Josh to reconcile. I love the bottom line, you're a loser. He's selling a lot of merch, so I don't want them to reconcile because then that goes away. Even though Macuga and I have some heat for him not being a wrestling fan and completely downing wrestling, even though he had a wrestling gimmick with Finstock as Mega Powers. But I digress. I think Tom Dagnino is going to get unbelievably buried. I feel bad for the guy.
I think it just depends on how many Stallone questions there are in this.
Well, I did ask if it was going to be tailored specifically to them, and the answer was no. It's just going to be a regular Schmoedown, which that may be kind of a missed opportunity, but it's.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Can I give Frank Janisch a hard time real quick?
Sure.
To clarify, Schmoesno.com's Frank Janisch. Now, everyone knows I've been complaining about speed rounds forever, as I think steal opportunities should be rewarded when someone buzzes in first without an answer in the allotted time. Aaron and I, we've kind of been on the same page about this before, and last week when we discussed it, I kind of knew that Frank would disagree, which he did last week, and Frank's reasoning was the same reasoning that Christian once gave me. It would give people bigger leads going into round 5, which would reduce the final round drama. Conversely, though, you could argue that a steal opportunity could mount a comeback for someone, and that way that allows for a more dramatic round 5. Anyway, I was watching Frank's reaction video on YouTube.
Go there.
I was watching Frank's reaction video on YouTube.com, Riley and Roca. And when Roca chimed in that speed round without an answer at the end of round 4, Frank instinctually expected Riley to then answer that question, even though there are no steal opportunities there. So contrary to Frank's statement last week, Frank's own instincts have proven on tape that he thinks steals should be granted in those scenarios. So guys, this is very, very big because Frank just naturally expects this to happen. I think this needs to be remedied. I cannot see this happen another event where a big title is decided and someone has a point taken away from them because they can't answer. So just wanted to point that out because I watched our co-host's reaction video.
Well, I'd like to counter with my instincts suck. So that's all I got for you. So,
you have great instincts.
Well, I mean, no, I got caught up in it, and I forgot that wasn't the way it went.
But it's just something you expected. It's just what seems like the logical thing to do in that situation, and I just found it to be interesting. So, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that information, everyone, but there it is.
Okay, if you guys are done, I'd like to get back to our guest, if that's not a problem. If we can just
let's ask her. What do you think, Brianne, in speed rounds when someone buzzes in too soon and they don't have an answer? Do you think the other person should have the chance to steal?
It's hard because if it were me, I'd probably be the one getting it wrong. So I wouldn't want them to have the chance to steal as a competitor.
You wouldn't want the chance to steal a point from someone who buzzed in too soon?
I don't know. These are difficult questions that you're
I know.
That's what we do here. We have the hard-hitting questions.
I haven't thought about it that much because, like, how many matches do we actually see with a speed round like that? So
just title fights.
So therefore, I don't know. Title fights. I have no opinion on this because I don't know.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, I feel like we have to ask a few more questions of you, Brianne. I feel like we need more information. I feel like we haven't interrogated you enough. So my question is, you've said a long time that, you get the nerves when you go onto the Schmoedown meet, and sometimes you have an adult beverage perhaps before you go. And have those nerves subsided now that you've had a couple matches under your belt, or are they still there?
It's definitely less. Felt it this last match, the singles match against Perry. I don't think I really had much nerves going in, but I have been doing a lot of catching up and a lot of studying, so I felt like maybe that would help. And I don't know. I can't remember all of the questions that I was asked, or if any of them I would have been able to answer just solely based on study. Actually, two of Perry's questions, like I haven't seen Gangs of New York and I haven't seen On the Waterfront, but I knew the answers to those. And the On the Waterfront one, I knew because of the studying I've done. Maybe.
Is it easy to get distracted by the crowd? Can you fall out of focus when you see someone laughing or yelling? Or does Christian kind of tell people in the crowd to not distract the players? I mean, how does that affect?
Notice that the crowd is there at all.
Oh, you just black everybody out like Jordan. I see.
Absolutely. It's kind of that way with performing in general. You know, when I was on the field at SC and as a song girl, and there's like over 100,000 people in the crowd, it becomes a point where it's just a sea of just heads, and so you don't really notice that there's actual people watching you. So you just perform like no one's watching.
And the lights no longer phase you. That it's not something that gets to you anymore. You're basically calm.
I mean, the lights
when you're
can
up there.
still get to you, but it's different. The more you get in front of the lights, the better you become at being able to calm yourself or your nerves. That's why it's hard once you like do a match and then you're waiting for your next match, because it's like that adrenaline rush that you get, and you're like, I need to get back in there because I need to have that rush again, and I need to get better at this. And you see yourself get better just in general as a player, in your own, you know, head through each match that you get.
Well, I'll ask you this question because I tend to ask it to every guest that we've had, so it only makes sense to keep it going. Is there a competitor that you like to watch, like as a member of the crowd, where you're just entertained by him or her?
Brian Davids is an acceptable answer.
You're not a competitor.
Gosh, is there a competitor that I like to watch? I like to watch John Roca, probably, because I like to see, you know, his win against Dan is just so genuine to me. Even though he has his persona as the outlaw, I just felt like we got to see John when he did win. So that's something that I really like. And I just like the people that actually take the time to put on a show and not just answer questions, because there are those two different types of competitors, and you can tell the difference between them. So anyone that's there to put on a show is who I like to watch.
Are you going to keep the heel act going for as long as possible? Because it seems like it's more fun.
Brian, is it an act?
Maybe not. But it seems like you're having fun doing it, and it seems like you're going to keep it going for a while, and I hope you do.
Oh, I got a question real quick here, because I've seen it in the comments from
more wrestling questions. Fantastic.
Yeah, how did you know? I've seen it in the comments, and I thought it was odd that people were coming at it from this angle, because Brian started throwing in Miss Method, and people seem to say, "What are you doing that for?" And I seen a comment of yours or a response to say, you know, basically you're saying, why is this a problem? Do you have a problem with Miss Method?
I think the comment was like, stop saying Miss Method.
Right.
And I said, why?
Yeah.
Meaning like, why should he stop saying that? So does that answer your question?
I like it.
Why does it fit perfectly, you mean? That would be my question.
And somebody used it in a bigger comment to you. I think someone adopted it in a tweet, someone notable. I think someone, or actually you showed me something of people using
put it on my channel and referred to me as that.
Right. It's already catching on. See, guys? I was on to something before everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the new iPod.
Like always, Brian. Like always.
I'm a trendsetter. What can I say?
As always, Brian, thank you for the ratings. All right.
Now, Brianne, I got one more thing to ask you.
Okay.
Heels and sportsmanship. We argued last week about how just because you're a heel like Roca, that doesn't mean you are above shaking the hands of your opponent. I went back and watched some game footage, and I saw that Roca shook Mark Ellis's hand when Roca lost to him at the Ultimate Schmoedown. So you can shake someone's hand and not compromise your character, especially if you're a heel. Jeff Sneider always hugs or shakes the hands of his opponents that he beats. So how do you feel about sportsmanship in the Schmoedown? And do you think showing sportsmanship is something that even heels can do without compromising their characters?
So many questions at the end there.
That was a loaded question.
I feel like sportsmanship is important because we have to all remember it is just a game. But I also understand the point of view of it's also a show. So I know that by someone not shaking a hand of someone else, that's not necessarily them disrespecting them in real life. So you know, sometimes it happens, and sometimes people get caught up in the moment of a win or a loss, and yeah, maybe they forget to bow to their partner. I don't know.
That's awesome.
He was Danielson, so I mean, you know.
I brought up the Mark Ellis thing at the Ultimate Schmoedown because Rocha still went off in the post interview, and that's the thing. You can shake someone's hand and then go crazy in your post interview and reestablish that you're still a heel. So I don't think anyone's going to sit there and be like, "Oh, Rocha shook their hand. I don't think he's a heel anymore." I don't think anyone's ever going to have that reaction to a quick display of sportsmanship. But that's just me. Brianne, how much has your podcast helped you in the Schmoedown? You watch a lot of movies for 6 Degrees. How much has that helped in your mind, or has it not really come up, the films that you've watched? I mean, is there a way to gauge that?
I think it's helped a lot. I mean, things like knowing that answer to the Stephen King question, that even though it wasn't a question that I was asked, at least that I had that knowledge, and I would never have watched Maximum Overdrive. But I also listened to How Did This Get Made, which did a whole thing on, which is a great podcast by Paul Scheer and some other people. And they did Maximum Overdrive, and they just talked about how Stephen King basically directed that and a bag of Coke. And that was about it. Like,
that's awesome.
It was the most hilarious podcast I've ever heard. But I find that I try to do my best to push myself to watch when we have a guest on, which we have every week since, I don't know, January. I'm kind of at the end of my rope, because I know that when a guest comes on, we're going to ask them to give us a list of films, and we'll narrow it down to 3, and we try to do ones we haven't talked about. And a lot of times everyone always wants to talk about Die Hard, and I'm like, can we just stop? Because I've talked about this enough now. But a lot of times they'll bring me films that I haven't seen, or ones that I definitely need to rewatch. So like, I watched Tremors last night because I had never seen it, and our guest Sam Basher wants to talk about it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to watch this movie, and Kevin Bacon's in it, and he's a big influence for our show. And I find that now that I've seen it, you know, questions that come up about it, I hopefully will be able to answer. I'm gonna need to rewatch Unbreakable as well. And
congratulations!
So I'm looking forward to that because of with the news with Glass, and I just thought, oh, that kind of works out nicely.
Basically, what I'm getting at is you're not just making these studying memes for no reason. You are actually studying as much as anyone in this league.
I don't sleep. I've stopped sleeping, and it's actually not very good for my health. I just watch movies like as much as I can when my children are asleep, and they don't fall asleep till night. They don't fall asleep, and I can leave, you know, the top floor of my house to go watch a movie downstairs until about 9:30. And so then I have, hopefully I can finish a film before I go to bed. Otherwise I have to watch it the next day. But I do that. And I also I've read that one trivia book cover to cover 4 times. Like, I've learned a lot of information, a lot of useless information that may never, ever come up. But yeah, it's just, I'm just trying to memorize as much as I can, and I don't know if it'll help me at all, but maybe it will.
I just want to throw in.
I need to look more at what Bible verses are going to be used in the next my next Schmoedown, because I'm sure it's coming up.
Yeah, flip back through that book apparently. But before we go, guys, I have to announce our contest winner that we had a few weeks ago that will get a guest spot on this show, and the winner is Tim Sim. Now, Tim, you'll have to DM me at ATTitanium on Twitter, and we'll set that up. But you are the winner. You will get a segment on the Schmoedown Rundown with all of us. Probably not Brianne, but, it's, maybe.
That's how it goes.
He should be so lucky.
Tim Sim is the guy that does the match previews in the Facebook page, right? Excellent.
Sim City? Is that the segment name we're going to call it?
Maybe. Good point.
Like that, huh?
Also, next week.
So original.
Yeah. Way to go, everybody.
SimCity 2000, yeah.
All right, derailing. Oh, right. Also, next week, now, we are lucky as hell to have amazing guest competitors that from the Schmoedown to come on this show and just shoot the breeze with us. We have Miss Movies with us today, and she's been fantastic. And I applaud you for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so, so much. And we're going to keep the streak going. We have another guest next week, and it is somebody that is the guy's itching to talk. He hasn't talked publicly in any Schmoedown forum about what has happened since his title loss to Mark Riley. So next week, we will sit down with the outlaw, John Roca, get his thoughts on Riley, his thoughts on possible Team Top 10 getting a title match soon. We're going to talk to Roca. We're going to let it all hang out. We're going to get to the nitty gritty. We're going to get down to business next week with John Roca. So stay tuned for that. The Outlaw making his third appearance on the Schmoedown Rundown. That's a record. So
Two's a record.
All the record. Actually, Chris Galicki's also been on here twice.
Oh, that's true.
Tied. But thank you for playing.
I gotta beat that record.
You're welcome back anytime. Hey, you want to come back next week? No, I'm just kidding.
Me and John Roca. Sure.
Boy, why would we even show up at that point?
All right. Before we get out of here, we got to know where everybody can be found and what they're doing. So as always, Frank Janisch, where can you be found, man?
I'm on Twitter at FrankieJ29, and keep a lookout for the weekly recap of the Schmoedown. Comes out on Monday, schmoesno.com.
Of course, how could I forget? Frank of schmoesno.com as well. Brian Davis, where can you be found, sir?
Could Brian Davids and John Roca be bearing the hatchet in the same week as Josh Macuga and Tom Dagnino? Time will tell. You guys can follow me, Brian Davids, on Twitter at BDF331. Check out my TV film podcast at filmschlubspodcast.com. And special thanks to Clint LaJeunesse at Floyd Pinkster and Shane Bowman at HeisenbergChronicles.com for their help with artwork this week.
I didn't realize you guys still had heat. Our wonderful guest today, Miss Movies, a.k.a. Brianne Chandler. Thank you once again for joining us. Where can you be found, and what do you have going on?
You can find my network at missmovies.net.
Jeff loves that.
I do a blog there. You can find all my videos. It links to my YouTube, my Instagram, all that good stuff. So find me at missmovies.net and check out Film Therapy live on Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. PST. Yay.
Boom. There you have it. Don't forget to also follow the show at SD Rundown. Go on iTunes, the Schmoesno feed. Give us a rate, a review. Tell us how great we are. We'd really appreciate it. That'd be awesome. Until next week, we'll see you guys. It's the Schmoedown Rundown. We're out of here.
Oh, and Senator, just one more thing. Love your suit.
My name is Aaron. I am your host, as always. Joining me this week...
That damn motorcycle.
Every week. Oh, okay. Well, I'm getting... Ooh. Okay. Well, normally I would do the intro, but apparently... Okay. All right. Cool. Got it. All right. Well, here's this. And pause. And pause. You can't laugh, dude.
Excellent composure, Brian. You're a true professional. I always knew.
Laugh.
I never laugh. This is
Button
weird.
it up, man.
I never laugh.
It's true. I've never heard this laughing thing before. In like the month and a half we've been doing this, I've never heard this.
I'm just not a happy person, Frank. I'm sorry.
Button it up, David. All right.
Is it my time to speak?
Oh, one second.
Oh, that's my actual intro.
1 second. And a 3, and a 2, and a... Damn it. Guys, you can't laugh. You can't laugh. I'm going to count down from 3, and then we'll bring you in. You can, and a 3, and a 2, and a...
Stop talking about that.
What?
Stop talking.
How about you just do the fingers and I will lead myself.
Like Wayne's World, where he's like... 3.
Yep.
Stop nodding. Okay. All right, got it.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 3, and then I'll do it. Okay.
I got it. Thanks.
Cool. 3,